Have you ever felt the air around you change in an instant, so sharp it's as if the room itself turned its back on you? It could be a joke wrapped in poison, a glance that cuts deeper than words, or a silence so deliberate you can feel the judgment pulsing behind it. In that moment your chest tightens, your mind races, and 1,000 possible reactions crowd the doorway of your thoughts. Part of you wants to strike back. Part of you wants to demand answers. And part of you wonders why they chose you in the first place. The Stoics would tell you this: disrespect is never an accident. It's a calculated reach for your energy, a test to see if they can bend your spirit. And the cruelest trap is that your reaction is the prize they seek. Lose control, and you've handed them what they came for. Stay still, and you've denied them everything. There is a silence so heavy, so unshakable, that it turns the mirror back on the one who meant you harm. It is not weakness. It is a blade they cannot grasp without cutting themselves. It is the quiet that lets the weight of their own actions settle exactly where it belongs. So, what happens when you choose not to answer the insult? When you let time and consequence speak in your place? Stay with me, and we'll walk through why sometimes the most powerful voice is no voice at all. First, let your mind step quietly into this scene, a place where the air hums with conversation until a single voice cuts through, sharp, deliberate, and aimed at you. The air hums with conversation, and somewhere in that hum, a single sentence cuts through like a blade. It's aimed at you. Sharp, precise. You see the smirk. You hear the subtle rise in their tone, the kind meant to draw eyes toward you and watch what you do next. Your heart kicks once in your chest. Your mind prepares its defense. And then, your breath catches, because in that instant you realize they already know what they've done. When someone disrespects you, it is never a slip of the tongue or an accident of mood. It is a choice, deliberate as a hand reaching for a weapon. They weighed their words before letting them fall. They studied your face as they spoke them, looking for the smallest fracture in your calm. They wanted you to react. They wanted the spark to catch and the fire to burn. To them, your reaction is the trophy. Lose your composure, and they hold it aloft as proof they were right to target you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This is the essence of Stoic strength, choosing not to mirror the pettiness of those who seek to drag you down, because the moment you leap to defend yourself in their arena, you've already agreed to play their game, and that game is rigged. Next, consider the alternative: silence. Not the silence of defeat or passivity, but the kind that is unshakable, unnerving. The kind that sits in the air between you and your detractor like a heavy curtain, making them second-guess the very ground they stand on. You don't fold your arms or turn away in shame. You simply stand, steady as stone, and give them nothing. That nothing is everything. I remember once watching a friend endure a public insult during a meeting. It was the kind of comment designed to spark outrage, laced with false humor, but soaked in venom. Every eye in the room turned to him. He didn't move, didn't flinch. He let the silence grow until the air seemed to press in on the speaker. And then he calmly returned to his notes, as if the words had evaporated before reaching him. By the end of that meeting, the one who had thrown the insult looked smaller. Not because anyone shouted them down, but because they had been denied the only thing they wanted, a reaction. This is why silence holds power. It is not avoidance, it is mastery. It's the refusal to let someone else pull the strings of your emotions, and in that refusal, you force them to face themselves. Their own words echo back at them, stripped of the satisfaction of your outrage. It's like throwing a stone into a void and waiting for the splash that never comes. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." When you remain unmoved, you feed their imagination instead of your own pain. They start to wonder, did I go too far? Why didn't they react? What are they thinking? That uncertainty gnaws at them more than any retort you could deliver. But here's where the philosophy deepens. Your silence isn't for them. It's for you. It's the shield that protects your peace from being auctioned off to the lowest bidder. It's the discipline to keep your hands free for building rather than for throwing back the stones they hurl. There's another truth the Stoics understood well. The universe already has its own way of correcting injustice. Call it fate, call it karma, call it the inevitable turning of the wheel, whatever name you choose. The principle is the same. Every action carries its consequence, and those who move with malice eventually meet the fruit of their own planting. Epictetus reminded his students that you control only your own choices, never the outcomes of another's. So why exhaust yourself trying to administer justice that life itself will deliver? In practice, this means you don't chase them for apologies. You don't waste breath trying to explain the harm they already calculated. You don't lower yourself to meet them at the level where disrespect is currency. Instead, you let time and consequence do the talking. Think of it like watching someone dig a hole while mocking you from its edge. You don't need to wrestle the shovel from their hands. You simply stand back, tend your own ground, and know that eventually the depth they dig will hold them, not you. The first time you try this, true silence, it might feel unnatural. Your instincts will scream to answer back, to prove you can't be walked over. But mastery comes in resisting that first impulse. In time, you'll see that the people worth your energy rarely force you into such a choice. And the ones who do, they're already sinking into the consequences they've set in motion. So the next time disrespect finds its way to your doorstep, remember, you don't have to open the door, you don't have to step outside. You can let the knock echo unanswered until it fades into nothing, because nothing, when held with intent, can be the most deafening sound in the world. And that's when you'll know you've already won the only battle worth fighting. Next, I want you to picture this. Someone is speaking, but not with the intention to connect. They're throwing words like stones, small enough to pass for casual remarks, yet aimed with precision to bruise. While they waste their breath on trying to shrink you, you're standing in a different world, entirely. Your gaze is set forward, fixed on the road you've chosen, the one that leads far beyond their reach. The Stoics would remind you, your life's work is too important to be interrupted by every voice that calls your name in mockery. Marcus Aurelius said, the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do. And this is the discipline you must claim, to let them exhaust themselves in pettiness, while you conserve your strength for building something that will outlast their noise. Many believe that power lives in words, sharp comebacks, eloquent defenses, or the ability to win an argument on the spot. But there is another kind of power, one far rarer. It begins the moment you decide to say absolutely nothing. Silence is the most underestimated weapon in human interaction. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of one who refuses to be baited into battles that do not serve their future. When you remain quiet, you force the other person to stand alone with their actions, their words, their poison. And that silence, it doesn't simply hang in the air. It presses in. It becomes heavy enough to make them question themselves in ways no rebuttal ever could. I once saw this unfold at a dinner table between two old colleagues. One came armed with barbed remarks, the kind that masquerade as humor but are designed to draw blood. The other listened, eyes steady, a faint smile unmoved by the provocation. He answered with nothing, not a shift in his seat, not a flicker in his expression. By the end of the evening, the one who had thrown the insults looked restless, glancing often toward the door as though seeking escape. The silence had done its work, because here's the truth. When someone disrespects you, they expect chaos. They expect you to lose your composure, to break down, to react in a way that proves their words have power over you. If you meet them with stillness instead, the game collapses. What was supposed to be a public unraveling becomes a mirror, one they cannot turn away from. And that mirror is merciless. Make no mistake, people know when they've crossed the line. They feel it in the air, even if they pretend otherwise. The problem is, they expect you to carry the weight of guilt and hurt, while they walk away feeling justified. When you deny them that reaction, the guilt has nowhere to go but back to them. It lingers. It festers. Seneca once observed, "He who does wrong will hate the one he has wronged." Why? Because your refusal to respond forces them to live with the image of what they've done, and some people are terrified of facing themselves. Your silence becomes a kind of psychological terrain they can't navigate, a war zone in their own mind, where every second without your reply is another step into uncertainty. They start asking themselves questions you will never hear. Did I go too far? Why didn't they answer me? Are they planning something? Their imagination becomes their prison, and they built it themselves. Meanwhile, you walk away with your dignity intact, your peace undisturbed, your focus unbroken. Here's the deeper truth. People who throw disrespect are often fighting silent wars within. They're drowning in their own insecurities, their own failures, their own fears. Trying to make you feel small is the quickest way for them to feel momentarily large. But the moment you don't react, that illusion dissolves. They're left alone in the dark, forced to wrestle with the same demons they tried to hand to you. And you keep walking, not in retreat, but in command of your own path. Every step you take without looking back is a reminder, to them and to yourself, that your life is not a stage for their performance. Think of silence as the closing of a great door. Once it's shut, what happens on the other side can no longer reach you. The noise may still echo faintly, but it fades. And in its place you hear something far more valuable, your own thoughts, your own plans, your own next move. So, when their words come, let them pass. Stand steady, unshaken. Offer no explanation, no defense, no sign that their attempt to provoke you has landed. Because the loudest message you can send is sometimes the one wrapped in quiet. Let them keep talking. Let them wonder. Let them exhaust themselves in speculation. By the time they realize they've been speaking into emptiness, you'll be too far ahead for their noise to catch you. And that is when your silence will become not just a defense, but a declaration, one that says you have already chosen where your energy belongs, and it will never be wasted on those who cannot respect it. From here, we move to something even more unshakable, the truth about how karma works in your favor when you refuse to fight battles that life itself has already decided. Then, there comes a moment when the silence itself begins to work for you, slowly, deeply, almost invisibly, until the one who tried to harm you starts to feel the weight of their own actions. It's like a mirror they didn't expect to look into, and the reflection is uncomfortable. They realize, in a way they may never admit aloud, that your absence of reaction speaks far louder than any defense you could have given. Picture it. Someone throws a remark at you meant to pierce, to pull you into a spiral of self-doubt. But you don't flinch. You don't even slow your stride. Instead, you carry on as if their voice had no gravity, as if it fell short of reaching you. That choice, quiet and deliberate, tells them exactly where they stand in your life. Nowhere. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them knows anything about the subject." If their words have no truth, why should they have weight? The fact that you don't respond is not weakness, it's a verdict, a declaration that their attempt to shake you failed before it began. People hate being ignored, especially when they were hoping to see you crack. Disrespect is often nothing more than an attention-seeking performance, a desperate attempt to matter, to be noticed, to feel powerful in a life where they otherwise feel small. When you refuse to acknowledge it, you deliver the sharpest cut possible, irrelevance. And nothing wounds the ego more than realizing you do not matter to the person you wanted to break. I once knew a woman who managed a team where one employee constantly undermined her in meetings. He'd slip in sarcastic comments, challenge her unnecessarily, and try to provoke an argument in front of others. She never bit. She addressed the points worth addressing and ignored the bait entirely. Months later, his comments stopped. Not because she silenced him directly, but because he had grown tired of swinging and never landing a hit. Her silence had starved his need for recognition. Seneca taught, "He who is brave is free." Freedom here is the courage to remain unaffected, to stand in the storm without letting it pull you in. True power isn't in how loud you can be, but in how little you are moved by what does not matter. Think of the lion. It does not answer the barking of a dog, not because it can't, but because it knows exactly who it is. The lion's strength is self-evident. It requires no performance, no proof, no wasted motion. That's the mentality you must adopt. Let people bark. Let them throw words like stones. You don't have to pick up a single one because your path is not in the dirt. It's in building something that rises far above it. Those who succeed at the highest level understand this deeply. They don't waste breath on those who disrespect them. They let their actions speak. Their growth, their consistency, their unshakable presence. While the weak exhaust themselves, tearing others down, the strong are too focused on climbing to even notice. Silence, when chosen deliberately, is a statement in itself. It says, "I refuse to be dragged into your storm because I am too busy building my own sky." It is the ultimate act of self-control, discipline, and power. And the moment you master it, you stop playing the game they set for you and start living by the rules you choose. So the next time someone tries to bait you into chaos, remember, your silence can be the wall they cannot scale. Let it stand. And as you walk away, keep your focus where it belongs, on the horizon you're building toward, not the noise you've left behind. If this resonates with you, take a moment to subscribe and share a simple word in the comments, silent, as your quiet commitment to never letting disrespect pull you off course. Because from here, we turn to an even greater truth. What happens when life itself takes the role of judge and karma begins to speak in your place? Afterward, there comes a truth that many resist, yet it governs life as surely as the rising and setting of the sun. Not all justice is ours to deliver. Some justice belongs to the quiet, patient hands of time. It is a wheel that turns slowly, yet never stops. Every action, kind or cruel, is placed upon that wheel, and in due course it returns to its sender. Imagine this. The one who wronged you walks away with a smirk, convinced the match is over and they've won. They talk as though the consequences will never arrive, as if betrayal evaporates once the moment passes. They wear their victory like a badge, laughing at your silence. But what they cannot see, what they will not see, is that the moment they acted, the clock began to tick. They marked themselves, and the universe took note. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." When someone acts with malice, deceit, or disrespect, they plant the seeds of their own suffering. They may water those seeds with arrogance and shield them with denial, but the harvest is inevitable. Poisoned soil bears bitter fruit, and no gardener can bargain with the seasons. I once heard the story of a merchant in an old port city who cheated his rival out of a shipment. On that day, he celebrated as though he had gained the upper hand forever. Years later, during a harsh winter, his own ships were stranded at sea, his stores running dry. The only person who could supply him was the rival he had betrayed, and that rival, remembering everything, simply turned away. His downfall was not delivered with fury or noise. It arrived quietly, carried by the long memory of consequence. This is how karma works. It doesn't need your anger to push it forward. It doesn't rely on your hands to bring it to life. It operates beyond your control, but always in alignment with the truth. One day, the lips that spoke against you, the hands that pushed you away, and the eyes that overlooked you will turn back in regret, not because you demanded it, but because life humbled them. When you grasp this, something inside you changes. You stop wasting energy on revenge. You stop replaying the insult in your mind. You stop crafting imaginary arguments to prove your point. You let them go, not out of weakness, but out of understanding. Every insult they hurled is now tied to them, not you. Every act of malice is a thread in the net they are weaving around themselves. Seneca wrote, "Every guilty person is his own hangman. You don't need to pull the rope. They tighten it with every act born from spite." And the beauty of this truth is that you can turn away without fear of missing the ending. You don't need to watch their fall to know it will come. Picture a mountain slope in winter. High above, a careless traveler shakes loose a small patch of snow. They laugh as it falls, thinking nothing of it. But that single act sends a tremor through the slope, and deep within the mountain, the shift has already begun. Minutes, hours, or even days later, the avalanche roars to life, not because someone chased it, but because gravity and time demanded it. This is how karma moves, unseen, gathering, inevitable. They might think they are untouchable now. They might be laughing, celebrating their temporary victory, but what they don't see is the storm already moving toward them, gathering in silence. And storms never announce the exact moment they will break. In the meantime, you hold your ground. You keep walking forward. You refuse to let their shadow follow you into tomorrow. Life has already taken the case, and the verdict, when it comes, will be final. The greatest part? By the time their lesson arrives, you will be so far ahead, so absorbed in building your own life, that you won't even notice. You won't be waiting for the news. You'll be too busy living the life they thought you could never have. If this truth resonates with you, if you believe in letting time and truth handle what your hands do not need to touch, subscribe and share a single word in the comments. Karma. Let it be your quiet acknowledgement that patience is not passivity, and silence is not surrender. From here, we move to the next reality. When that consequence arrives, it does not simply settle the debt, it strikes at the very heart of what they thought they could never lose. And that, more than anything, is what finally breaks them. Now, as we step into the 5th chapter, we reach the stage where the hands of consequence move without your touch, silent, deliberate, and unerring. Life does not bend to the urgency of human clocks. It waits. It watches, and when it strikes, it does so with precision, cutting deep into the roots of what the other person believed could never be shaken. Picture a man building his house at the edge of a cliff. To him, the foundation feels solid, the air is calm, and the view stretches wide. He decorates the walls, fills the rooms with laughter, and boasts to anyone who will listen that nothing could threaten his home. But far beneath the ground, the cliffside is eroding. Each small act of cruelty, every seed of disrespect he has planted, becomes another drop of water wearing away at the stone. He doesn't hear it. He doesn't see it. And so he believes he is safe until the day the earth gives way beneath him. This is the nature of karma. It does not rush to make its presence known. It does not send warnings in the language we expect. It lets time gather its strength until the moment is right. Then it takes from them what they valued most, not always as punishment, but as balance. The very things they used to harm others often become the tools of their own undoing. The Stoics would say this is the natural order of the universe. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The wrongdoer does wrong to himself. The unjust man is unjust to himself. He makes himself evil." Every act against virtue plants a thorn in one's own path. Sooner or later, they must walk barefoot over the field they created. You do not need to stand by and witness the moment they step into the pain they once tried to hand you. You do not need to linger near the battlefield long after you have left it, because by then you will be far beyond it, your attention anchored to the work that builds your life, not to the noise that tried to tear it apart. I once knew a craftsman who poured his skill into every piece he made. His competitor mocked him publicly, calling his methods outdated, his designs irrelevant. The craftsman did not defend himself. He did not waste his days in argument. He simply kept working. Years passed. The competitor, chasing quick profit, began selling products of lower quality. Customers noticed. Trust eroded. By the time they returned to the craftsman, the competitor's business had collapsed. No words were needed. The contrast between their choices spoke louder than any feud. That is the quiet elegance of letting life respond in your place. Those who mocked you will one day revisit their own moments of choice and see where they cut the wrong path. They will replay the times they could have chosen respect, but instead chose ego. They will realize that the same disregard they showed has now circled back, leaving them stranded. And when that day comes, something remarkable will happen. You will not care. Not out of bitterness, but because your life will be too full, your focus too steady. Their downfall will not be your victory, your growth will. You will not measure your worth by the state of their life, but by the quality of your own. Seneca warned against letting our joy be tied to the misfortune of others. To do so keeps you chained to them, even in their absence. The highest form of release is to live so fully that their shadow cannot reach you. So no insult can erase your achievements, not with malice, but with the quiet understanding that every action digs a little deeper. They think they are winning. They think their position is secure, but the ground beneath them is soft, and it was their own hands that loosened the soil. Meanwhile, you rise. You invest in your growth, in your discipline, in your craft. You collect small daily victories that compound into something no insult can erase. You guard your peace as a fortress, not against imaginary enemies, but to protect the clarity you've earned. Because here is the unshakable truth. Success is the only language that leaves no room for argument. When you truly rise, when you build something that cannot be toppled by the same hands that once tried to pull you down, there is nothing left for them to say. There is no comeback for proof that stands before their eyes. No insult can diminish results carved from years of focus. No betrayal can block what is meant for you when your will has made it inevitable. Epictetus taught that we cannot control the actions of others, only our own choices. This is the core of your power. While they were busy seeking control over you through disrespect, you chose mastery over yourself. While they were driven by ego, you were guided by purpose. While they were playing small games, you were building something enduring. Think of a tree planted in the open field. In its early days, it is small enough to be trampled or uprooted, but as seasons pass, its roots sink deep, its trunk thickens, its branches stretch toward the sky. The storms that once could have bent it to the ground now pass without notice. The tree doesn't chase the wind, it simply outlasts it. That is what you become when you refuse to be distracted by the noise of those who would see you fall. One day, they will see you standing there, thriving, unbothered, beyond their reach. And in that moment, they will feel the full weight of what they lost, not because you sought revenge, but because they gave up their chance to stand beside you. That will be their lesson to carry. And you? You will already have moved on to the next summit, your attention fixed on the climb, your energy free from the pull of their memory. You will not need to look back, because the life you have built speaks for itself. From here, the story turns to its final chapter, the transformation that takes place when you use every ounce of disrespect not as an anchor, but as fuel, until the very life you lead becomes the undeniable answer to all that was once said against you. Next, there comes a truth that cuts through the noise of every insult, every doubt, every attempt to make you feel small. The most powerful response you can give is to live a life so extraordinary that their words dissolve into nothing more than faint echoes in the distance. This is not about proving them wrong in a single moment. It is about building something so undeniable that their judgment becomes irrelevant. Picture a craftsman in a quiet workshop. Outside, critics shout through the window, mocking his work, questioning his skill. He does not pause to answer. He does not waste his energy shouting back. He keeps chiseling, each stroke of the tool shaping something magnificent. Months later, when the doors open, the room is filled with light, and the finished masterpiece commands silence. The same people who once mocked are left staring, unable to speak. The work has answered for him. When they disrespected you, it was never about the truth of your worth. It was about control. They wanted you to react. They wanted to see you crack, to watch you lose your composure, to make you prove their words had power. They wanted to disturb your ground, because deep down they feared the strength they sensed in you. The Stoics understood this fear well. Seneca wrote, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. When you remain steadfast in the face of provocation, you strip the aggressor of their only weapon, the ability to dictate your state of mind." People do not throw stones at what they consider beneath them. They attack what they feel threatened by. And the fact that you were targeted at all means you carry something, talent, resilience, presence that unsettles them. But here is where the transformation happens. Every ounce of disrespect they throw at you becomes fuel. Every insult, every doubt, every moment they try to reduce you is a brick you lay in the foundation of your success. They hand you the very materials you need to build higher. What they meant for harm becomes the scaffolding for your rise. Think of the blacksmith standing before the forge. Every blow of the hammer is an act of violence against the metal, yet each strike strengthens it. The fire that seeks to consume actually tempers. You are the same. Their criticism, their dismissal, their hostility, these are the flames. If you endure them without breaking, you emerge sharper, stronger, and unyielding. And as you build, something else happens. They begin to notice. They realize their words no longer reach you. They see that while they were busy trying to slow you down, you have been gathering momentum. It's in this silence, this absence of reaction, that your power takes shape. They expected a battle. Instead, they are met with indifference. Marcus Aurelius advised, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury, to answer their smallness with grandeur, to rise without pettiness, to leave them no opportunity to drag you into their arena. This is not surrender, it is sovereignty." I have seen this play out in the most unexpected ways. A young woman I once knew was told by her peers that she would never make it in her chosen field. They laughed when she spoke of her ambitions, tried to undermine her confidence, and whispered doubts into every conversation. She said nothing in return. She studied, worked tirelessly, built connections quietly. Years later, when her name appeared in places they could never reach, those same people pretended they had always supported her. But it was too late. The story had already been written in her favor. That is the strange alchemy of persistence. Time transforms disrespect into irrelevance. It rewrites the narrative without you having to speak a single line. By the time they realize what you have become, their part in your story is reduced to a footnote, a brief mention in the prologue of your success. And here lies another Stoic truth. You do not need their acknowledgement to validate your worth. You do not need their praise to confirm your progress. The work itself is the proof. The life you live becomes the argument they cannot win. While they gossip, you are planning. While they doubt, you are building. While they waste their energy trying to weaken you, you are stacking victories they will one day have to witness. This is the quiet rhythm of power, steady, deliberate, unstoppable. One day they will look up and see you thriving, unstoppable, untouchable, and in that moment the weight will shift. They will remember every word they spoke, every moment they tried to break you, every time they laughed in your absence. And it will haunt them, not because you sought vengeance, but because they threw away the chance to stand beside you when it mattered. And you? You will have long since moved beyond the need to prove anything. The summit you stand on will offer a view they will never reach, and the wind there will carry no trace of their voices. You will be busy building new heights, turning your focus to what's next, letting the echoes of the past fade into the quiet. Because here is the unshakable truth. Their disrespect was never the measure of you. Your response, the life you chose to build despite it, was. And when the work is complete, when the structure of your success stands tall against the horizon, it will speak for itself. There will be no debate, no comeback, no shadow strong enough to dim its light. From here, the path turns to the final movement, the moment when all the silent building, all the disciplined endurance, becomes the proof no one can deny, and the very life you lead becomes the answer to every challenge you have ever faced. Now, as we step into the final chapter, there comes a moment when you see it clearly. Some battles are not worth marching into, and some accusations are not worth answering. You owe no voice to those determined to misunderstand you. They will twist your words, no matter how carefully you shape them. They will carve their own image of you in their minds, and nothing you say will tear it down. So you choose to keep your breath, saving it for the climb ahead. Instead, you hold the course. You keep building. You work in the quiet rhythm of someone who knows that time is the truest judge. While they waste their days gossiping, doubting, and disrespecting, you are stacking one brick after another towards something they will one day be forced to see. There is no greater act of defiance than turning all the energy they hope to drain from you into fuel for your ascent. No louder response than the sound of success ringing in the silence where they once expected your outrage. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence, not because silence is weakness, but because it allows you to continue shaping your life without interference. And in shaping, you win." Imagine a young man training in the early hours before sunrise. His peers mock him for working too hard, tell him it's pointless, that he will never make it. They laugh while he trains, sneer while he studies, whisper behind his back. He never argues. He doesn't explain his reasons. He runs his miles. He lifts his weights. He studies late into the night. Years later, when his name appears in headlines they never dreamed of reaching, their laughter is gone. In its place, a silence they can't escape. That is the reversal of disrespect. One day, they will look up and realize that the person they dismissed, the person they tried to break, the person they thought they could bury, has become untouchable. They will see you thriving, steady, unshaken. And in that moment, they will know without a doubt they lost, because while they were busy playing games, you were leveling up. While they were focused on tearing you down, you were focused on building an empire. They will have to sit inside the reality they created, the one where they are nothing more than a footnote in your success story. And nothing haunts a person more than the knowledge that they wasted their chance to stand beside you. Nothing cuts deeper than watching someone they underestimated become everything they secretly wished they could be. Epictetus warned that you cannot control the opinion of others, but you can control your own path. And when you take that truth seriously, you stop bending under the weight of their judgment. You stop explaining yourself to those who do not care to understand. You place your energy where it matters, on the work that builds your legacy. There is a strange poetry in the way time rearranges alliances. The same people who doubted you will one day pretend they always believed in you. The same mouths that insulted you will speak your praise. The same hands that pushed you away will reach out, wanting to share in what you have built. But by then, the season for them will have passed. And here is the Stoic truth. You do not carry bitterness into that moment, because bitterness still ties you to them. You simply keep walking. You do not need to close the door. They closed it themselves long ago. Your task is only to keep moving forward. I once saw a seasoned sailor watch a rival's boat attempt to follow him into deep waters. The rival had mocked him for years, called him lucky, dismissed his skill. But in the open sea, the storm came. The rival's boat was not built for such waves. The sailor did not turn back to gloat. He did not shout over the wind. He simply kept his course, and the distance grew until the rival was nothing but a shadow against the horizon. That is what it means to let your results speak. You do not turn to acknowledge every voice that calls your name. You reserve your attention for the direction you're going. When you live this way, something shifts inside you. The need to defend yourself fades. The desire for their approval disappears. You begin to realize that the only validation worth having is the kind you give yourself at the end of each day, knowing you honored your path. And that is the freedom they cannot take from you. The more you practice it, the more untouchable you become. Your work becomes your argument. Your life becomes your proof. And their opinions, once so loud, become nothing more than background noise, unable to reach the place where you now stand. From here, the story narrows to its sharpest point, the moment when your silence, your persistence, and your results converge into a single truth they cannot deny. And when that moment comes, it will not be you who needs to say it. It will be your life speaking for you. Keep walking your path with quiet conviction. Let each step you take be an answer no insult can touch. Work in the stillness of someone who knows that time will tell the truth far louder than any words you could speak today. Let your actions carry the weight of your intentions, until the life you have built stands as living proof. There will come a day when those who disrespected you will have nothing left to say. Not because you silenced them with arguments, but because reality has spoken for you. And when that day arrives, you will see that the real victory was never in making them understand, but in becoming someone who no longer needs their understanding. So keep building. Keep choosing focus over noise, patience over reaction, purpose over pride. The work you put in now will shape a life that no opinion can weaken. The more you invest in your growth, the less room there is for the shadows of those who tried to hold you back. If this message resonates with you, take a quiet moment to subscribe so we can walk this journey together, and leave a single word in the comments: karma. Let it be your reminder that patience is strength, and silence is a power that speaks in its own time. Remember, life is always moving in your favor when you refuse to waste yourself on battles that do not serve you. Your time is better spent creating, building, and living in a way that makes every word spoken against you irrelevant. Stay steady. Stay focused.